Excuse me, is there a hotel around here?
Yes there is.
Oh, really? Is it near the lake? Do the rooms face the lake? Is it under 12,000? Half board or full? Does it have a pool?
Huh? In the age of the mobile phone, nobody looks for hotels like this. So why do you still pay with cash when you have People's Pay mobile app from People's Bank? Scan the Lanka QR code and make your payments with People's Pay mobile payment app from People's Bank.
In a few moments, the news.
Scan the Lanka QR code and make your payments with People's Pay mobile payment app from People's Bank.
This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
The time is precisely 1:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Danushka Madhavala and read by Chandima Veerakon. Headlines. IMF hopes for political stability to resume bailout talks. US urges Sri Lanka leaders to work promptly to achieve economic stability. UK government says they are following events in Sri Lanka very carefully. Suspects arrested for torching Prime Minister's personal residence. The LP gas ship has reached Sri Lankan waters. Urea fertilizer for farmers countrywide. Chief of Defence Staff calls for public support to maintain peace. And in foreign news, Shinzo Abe killing. Security was flawed, Japan police say. Local stories in detail. The International Monetary Fund said it is closely monitoring the ongoing developments in Sri Lanka and hopes for a resolution to the political crisis that will allow the global lender to resume talks for a bailout package. Peter Brewer, IMF Senior Mission Chief of Sri Lanka, and Masahiro Nozaki, IMF Mission Chief for Sri Lanka, said in a statement that they are closely monitoring the ongoing developments in Sri Lanka. The IMF mission representative said that they hope for a resolution of the current situation that will allow for resumption of our dialogue on an IMF-supported program. They said, meanwhile, they plan to continue technical discussions with the counterparts in the Ministry of Finance and Central Bank of Sri Lanka. The IMF also stated that they are deeply concerned about the impact of the ongoing economic crisis on the people, particularly the poor and vulnerable groups, and reaffirmed its commitment to support Sri Lanka at this difficult time, in line with the policies of the IMF. An IMF mission led by Peter Brewer and Masahiro Nozaki last month said the team had constructive and productive discussions with the Sri Lankan authorities on economic policies and reforms to be supported by an IMF extended fund facility arrangement. The United States urged Sri Lankan leaders to act quickly to seek long-term solutions for the president who was chased from his residence and announced his resignation. A State Department spokesperson said any new government should work quickly to identify and implement solutions that will achieve long-term economic stability and address the Sri Lankan people's discontent. The UK Minister of Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, Lord Ahmed of Wimbledon, says that the situation in Sri Lanka is alarming. In a Twitter message, he says the political and economic challenges will not be solved by violence. Peaceful protests must be protected and all those on the streets as well as security and police forces must show restraint. By working together, solutions can be found, he added. High Commissioner of the United Kingdom to Sri Lanka and the Maldives, Sarah Hulton, says that the UK government is following events in Sri Lanka very carefully. She added that peace, protests and discourse essential to Sri Lanka's democracy. Police media spokesman SSP Nihal Taldua said that 3 suspects have been arrested over the torching of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe's personal residence down 5th Lane, Colombo 3. The police media spokesman added that the suspects were revealed to be residents of Mount Lavinia, JUL and Gaul. The Kolpiti police are conducting further investigations on the matter. Police scene of crime officers were seen around the Premier's personal residence this morning. Protesters have damaged public property, including water lines leading to homes, after authorities used tear gas to disperse the crowd. Chief of Defence Staff General Shavendra Silva says the support of the members of the public is required to maintain peace in the country. In a statement, he said the people have the opportunity to resolve the ongoing crisis in the country peacefully and constitutionally. Accordingly, he appealed to the general public to extend their support to the armed forces and the police to ensure that peace is maintained. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Scan the Lanka QR code and make your payments with People's Pay mobile payment app from People's Bank.
Continuing with the local stories, the Litro Gas Company has made arrangements to distribute 140,000 LP domestic gas cylinders in the Colombo city from next Wednesday. The company said that domestic gas cylinders will be issued to the agents around the country. It is planned to ensure a continuous supply of gas to the consumers to meet the demand for the next 4 months. The first ship carrying 3,700 metric tons of gas has arrived in the Sri Lankan waters. According to the agreement reached by the Litro Gas Company and the World Bank on June 30th, the company will ensure a continuous supply of gas for 4 months. The first consignment of urea fertilizer from Indian loan scheme has arrived in the country. It was officially handed over to the Sri Lankan government this morning. 44,000 metric tons of urea arrived in the country as the first consignment, and a total of 65,000 metric tons is scheduled to provide by the Indian government. Organizations from the Ministry of Agriculture stated farmers who have been nominated by farmer organizations to get urea fertilizer should pay the money to the Agrarian Services Centres immediately, a circular to all farmers. A distribution of urea would be carried out according to the lists that were prepared earlier by the farmer organizations. The Ministry of Agriculture has drawn up plans to distribute fertilizer countrywide as soon as the stock is unloaded. To conclude the local news, the headlines again. IMF hopes for political stability to resume bailout talks. US urges Sri Lanka leaders to work promptly to achieve economic stability. UK government says they are following events in Sri Lanka very carefully. Suspects arrested for torching Prime Minister's personal residence. An LP gas ship has reached Sri Lankan waters. Urea fertilizer for farmers countrywide. Chief of Defence Staff calls for public support to maintain peace. That ends the local news.
Nobody looks for hotels like this. So why do you still pay with cash when you have People's Pay mobile app from People's Bank? Scan the Lanka QR code and make your payments with People's Pay mobile payment app from People's Bank.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
And on the main news story, Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe told the media while outlining the monetary policy stance of the bank, and the monetary and fiscal policy must go hand in hand to solve the economic crisis and shorten the turbulent times the country is going through. He said the central bank all alone cannot solve the economic crisis. Fiscal policy too must come into the overall picture to achieve economic stability. The puzzle will be completed only when fiscal reforms are addressed and state-owned enterprises reforms are undertaken, the governor said, adding that the government is still running on large fiscal deficits. That ends the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight. The Education Ministry has extended the deadline for accepting applications to admit Grade 1 students to government schools for 2023. Most parents had called upon the Education Ministry to extend the deadline of accepting applications of Grade 1 students to government schools due to the prevailing situation in the country. Secretary to the Education Ministry M. Nihal Ranasinghe has informed heads of government schools countrywide to accept applications for Grade 1 students until the 1st of August. The earlier deadline was July 16th. And now we take a look at the world news. The headlines. Shinzo Abe killing, security was flawed, Japan police say. Sajid Javid and Jeremy Hunt join Conservative Party leadership race. Canada's internet outage caused by maintenance. Japanese police have admitted there were flaws in the security for former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, who was shot dead in the southern city of Nara on Friday. Nara Police Chief Tomoaki Onizuka said that it is undeniable that there were problems in the security. A gunman opened fire on Abe at a political campaign event, a crime that has profoundly shocked Japan. Today's elections for the upper house are going ahead as planned. Voting began at 7 local time, just 2 days after Abe's assassination. Two former health secretaries, Sajid Javid and Jeremy Hunt, have joined the race to replace Boris Johnson. Both declared their plans in the Sunday Telegraph, with Mr. Hunt emphasizing he was the only major candidate who did not serve in Mr. Johnson's government. Tax has emerged as a central issue in the race, with contenders setting out whether they favour lower rates. Mr. Javid and Mr. Hunt called for tax cuts, with Mr. Javid pleading to scrap an increase in national insurance. Joining them in the race are Chancellor Nadim Zahawi and Transport Secretary Grant Shapps, both of whom promised to lower taxes. Canada's largest mobile and internet provider, Rogers, has apologized for the countrywide service outage which began on Friday. The company's CEO, Tony Staffieri, said failure followed a maintenance update in the core network. Transport, banking and emergency services were all hit by Friday's blackout, with 911 hotlines and bank ATMs left unavailable. Canadians flocked to coffee shops and libraries to find a connection. And to end the world news, the headlines again. Shinzo Abe killing, security was flawed, Japan police say. Sajid Javid and Jeremy Hunt join Conservative Party leadership race. Canada's internet outage caused by maintenance. That ends the world news. Moving on to development news, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka has announced that the grace period granted for residents of Sri Lanka to deposit or sell the foreign currency in possession to an authorized dealer has been extended. The Minister of Finance has issued an order under Section 8 of the Foreign Exchange Act No. 12 of 2017, extending the amnesty period granted for persons in or resident in Sri Lanka to deposit or sell foreign currency in possession to an authorized dealer as specified in the order by another 14 working days up to 26th July 2022. The order issued under Section 8 of the Foreign Exchange Act No. 12 of 2017 will reduce the amount of foreign currency retained in possession by a person in or resident in Sri Lanka from $15,000 to $10,000 or its equivalent in other foreign currencies. That ends development news. Sports news up next.
Sports news is brought to you by
Sampath Bank, we present your future.
And on sports news, it's cricket and tennis. In cricket news, today is the third day of the second test of the current series between Sri Lanka and Australia. Australia scored 364 runs in their first innings. In reply, Sri Lanka scored 280 runs for the first innings for the loss of 4 wickets at the end of the 94th over a short while ago. Sri Lanka is trailed by 83 runs in the first innings at present. And in tennis, Nick Kyrgios says he will be playing for the ultimate glory and tennis immortality when he faces Novak Djokovic in the Wimbledon men's final. Serbia's Djokovic is bidding for a fourth consecutive Wimbledon title and a 21st Grand Slam overall on Sunday. Kyrgios is aiming for the first major singles trophy when many thought the mercurial Australian's time had passed. That ends sports news.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSP U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
And on business news, the boss of Boeing has warned that there is a risk the plane maker may be forced to axe its 737 MAX 10 jet over potential regulatory issues. The company faces a deadline at the end of this year to secure approval for the passenger jet from U.S. authorities. Chief Executive Dave Calhoun said the push to get the green light was a little bit of an all or nothing. The MAX 10 is the latest and largest plane in the 737 family, which has been scrutinized after 2 fatal crashes. In an interview with Aviation Week magazine, Mr. Calhoun said he still expected a favorable outcome as Boeing planned to press its case with the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration and the U.S. Congress. That ends business news.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSP U Trust.
Economic news, courtesy of...
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
And on economic news, the Board of Investment $2 billion in FDIs this year, of which $1 billion will be realized. BOI Director General Renuka Virakon said on sidelines of a ceremony to launch the long-term residence visa for BOI enterprises recently. She said that they are confident of reaching the investment targets this year with the commitment of the new minister and the team. However, she added that it all depends on the situation in the country, which hopefully would ease the coming months. The BOI signed agreements to the tune of $765 million during the first 3 months this year. The BOI inked 13 investment contracts, including 3 major projects to the value of around $20 million in May. That ends economic news.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act No. 42 of 2011.
And finally, we take a look at the weather report. Several spells of showers will occur in Sabaragamu province and in Numara Elia and Kandy districts. A few showers may occur in Western province and in Gaul and Matra districts. Fairly strong winds, about 40 to 50 km per hour, can be expected at times in the western slopes of the central hills. That ends the weather report. And to conclude this bulletin of news, the headlines again. IMF hopes for political stability to resume bailout talks. US urges Sri Lanka leaders to work promptly to achieve economic stability. UK government says they are following events in Sri Lanka very carefully. Suspects arrested for torching Prime Minister's personal residence. The LP gas ship has reached Sri Lankan waters. Urea fertilizer for farmers countrywide. Chief of Defence Staff calls for public support to maintain peace. And in news overseas, Shinzo Abe killing, security was flawed, Japan police say. With that, we conclude this bulletin of news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.